We'll start again.
Real streaming hours when your shit's just fucked.
Super annoying. Literally just trying to start. Are we back up? Are we back up? Are we back up? Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Are we good? Are we up and are we good? All right. Trying to get these internet issues worked out, guys. Literally internet trying to act up as soon as I start streaming, which is always fun. All right. Making sure everything's good. Let me see. Pull the chat up. Try to pull it up on my phone. All right, now I can see you. I can see the chat. All right. How are we doing, guys? How are we doing? Yeah, finally a live stream. Nick literally makes sense since Nick literally vanished. Yeah, absolutely. Well, coincidentally, this is not even me making up excuses. My laptop decided to die straight up pretty much like the same day Nick got the flu. So I don't know, take it of which you will, but if it was a coordinated attack, Nick got the flu and my computer just decided to die, was it a coincidence? I don't know. Anyways, I'm joking, of course. Yeah, so it's been a minute. I haven't streamed in probably, I don't know, a month or so. Bunch of stuff to talk about, as the title implies or says. We're going to be covering a lot to do with Trump and the Pope. He's doing big Antichrist-like behavior. And of course, we're going to be covering all of that, right? So, yeah, good evening from the 305. Yeah, 305. Isn't that New Orleans? Vance is a puppet that smells like curry? Absolutely. Yeah, I hate the smell of curry, bro. Honestly, okay, you're from like the Toronto area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe if you're like from another big like city area, maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about, dude. But like the Uber drivers, dude, are like insanely smelly, dude. Like it's like that's the real epidemic out here. Yeah, yeah. Oh, Miami is 305. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm Canadian, bro. I don't know. Yeah. Vance. I mean, I don't understand how you could like live in a household that smells like curry, to be honest. That would like, drive me insane. So yeah, I mean, Nick got sick again and he's eating like total garbage. He posted like a 3 a.m. like picture on the Telegram of him eating like 3 burgers and like a bunch of hot dogs. And then he's just like, oh man, like I can't do the show. I'm really sick, guys. It's like, yeah, well, obviously. Yeah, I would feel sick too. So he'll be back on Monday or so. So we're going to fill it in. But thankfully, I got a brand new rig, really powerful new computer. I got a great graphics card. So we're going to be doing a lot more gaming streams. It's going to be a lot more. I'm able to do a lot more content actually now, like legitimately. It's a much more powerful processor. I got a i9, so I'm pretty happy about that. I got a 4070, like an RTX 4070, and yeah, so I'm pretty happy about that. So getting more gaming content very soon. I know a lot of you guys like the gaming streams. It's fun. It's a bit of a change up. So yeah, we'll be talking about Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan was at the White House, I think it was today. And he's got Trump signing some bill to do with psychedelics. So there's that. Yeah, the on-screen little chat thing. I don't think that's really working properly, but oh well, who cares? Yeah, we'll do a little war update, and like I said, then we'll be talking about the decrepit curse of JD Vance. You could say it's a Groyper curse. Some say it's a Groyper curse. But yeah, we'll be getting into that relatively shortly. And yeah, it's about it for the update. I mean, pretty much all I've really been doing is, other than getting this computer all set up and, getting all of that situated, it takes like a day or two. just chilling, looks maxing. I think chilling is really good for the looks. As long as you keep your cortisol low, artificially low all the time, just really stoic, really chill. That actually really helps with if you're trying to achieve good looks. Yeah. We are living in Revelation 20, Satan's little season. Yeah, absolutely. We're in the end of days, bro. Get used to it. It is what it is. If you're not comfortable in the apocalypse, then I don't even want to be around you, right? Like if you're not okay with the world being messed up and that's a mission that you have to deal with, it's your life mission. Well, I don't know. You're probably not going to make it, bro. Vance is a curse. He visited Orban and lost everything. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about Orban a bit too. Trump's like a little Palpatine mentioning JD in ways. Dark side, yeah. Hey, yeah, they really sunk his chances. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, and it's funny too because liberals have been talking. I have liberal family members and friends and stuff like that, and they're like, "Oh, you're against Orban." And I'm like, yeah, I don't like Orban whatsoever. I think he's a total stooge for Russia and, stuff like that. And they're like, wow, I really like that. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't think we dislike Orban for the same reasons, right? But, it is interesting seeing the kind of I don't know, they call it horseshoe theory or whatever, but whatever. I think it's just politics, real politic. Anyways, so let's start. All right. So we got our Iran war going on, guys. So this is from the New York Times. We're just going to do a bit of an update here because it's turned into quite a mess over there. So tensions rise in the Strait of Hormuz over ship attacks and Iranian threats. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said they were closing the strait until the U.S. blockade is lifted. 2 ships reported being hit as they tried to pass through the strait. So we had a ceasefire in place, an ability to transit the Strait of Hormuz for about a day or two. It was set to go from the 17th to the 25th or something like that, or the 22nd, something like that. It was about 5 days or so of the IRGC allowing ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is already over because Iran said that the U.S. and Israel has violated the ceasefire terms, the agreement to do with backing off in Lebanon, which was brokered by Pakistan mainly. So, of course, here's the latest from the New York Times. It reads, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on Saturday declared it was closing the Strait of Hormuz, the nation's state media said. Shortly after, 2 Indian flagships reported coming under fire while they were trying to pass through. Just a day before, the Iranian foreign minister said it was reopened, according to state media. President Trump also said the strait was open, but left in place an American blockade on ships from Iranian ports. That seemed to raise the ire of the guards, who said Saturday the strait would remain closed until the U.S. lifted its blockade. The back and forth added to the fear and confusion looming over a narrow waterway that has become the central focus in the effort to end the war. On Saturday, India summoned the Iranian ambassador about what it called a serious incident involving 2 Indian flag ships that were fired on. TankerTrackers.com, a company that monitors oil shipments, said that 2 Indian flagged vessels sailing through the strait had turned around. A shipping monitor run by the British Navy, the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations, said it had received a report that 1 tanker had come under fire from 2 Iranian gunships. Another vessel, a container ship, was also hit by an unknown projectile, it said. According to data from Kepler, I don't know how to say that, a global ship tracking firm, 17 vessels crossed the strait on Saturday, before Iran declared it closed, and 10 crossed on Friday. The Secretariat of Iran's Supreme National Security Council said in a statement that the government is currently reviewing new proposals submitted by the United States through Pakistan, which hosted peace talks last weekend. That's important, right? Late Saturday evening, in a speech on state media, Mohammad Baghar Ghalibaf, I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering that, Speaker of Iran's parliament, portrayed the ceasefire as a victory for his country and emphasized its control over the strait. Hopes for an end to the war were boosted by a 10-day ceasefire in Lebanon that went into effect Friday. Thousands of displaced families began making their way back home, and there was heavy traffic again on Saturday as people continue to head to Lebanon south. Iran has demanded the truce with the United States extend to Lebanon as a condition for a broader deal. And then they add some more what's going on in the rest of the world. So, all right. So you get the gist of what's going on. Trump has put a blockade in place in the Strait of Hormuz, a U.S. Navy blockade. Iran has also their blockade on select traffic, and it's both selective for both sides, really. This just means that we're going to resumption of hostilities. This was but a brief pause. This was not like there was no any intentions here that there was going to be an actual peace coming from the peace talks. Of course, what we saw JD Vance sent to Pakistan, right? Pakistan, total W for Pakistan. They're actually out here trying to end this war, which you have to commend them for. They're trying to be a real country, at least. And, I've been saying this a little bit lately. If you have nukes and you're pointing them at India and Israel, listen, you kind of have my support. All right. Yeah. 100% on Fuentes update, guys. He's sick. He's recovering. He's eating like 3 cheeseburgers, a bunch of hot dogs, he's, he'll be back on Monday. He's got the flu, I think. So, no, he gave himself, I think, food poisoning or the flu or something like that. Eating terrible, terrible food, which I would never do. No, I would never get myself food poisoning. Anyways, so back to the Strait of Hormuz. So this also coincides with Donald Trump extending the relief on sanctions on Russian oil by another month. So Russia had been cut off from the global economy as a whole, but also heavily sanctioned with its energy. And it's a energy-driven state. If Russia doesn't have high prices, then they don't have a real economy. They're a petro state, right? And natural gas, but you get the point. They're heavily reliant on energy. This war has been nothing but a boom for Russia. Russia has also, in this situation, it's pretty interesting. They've proven themselves to be a really terrible ally to Iran. We'll maybe save that for another time, but that is very interesting to me that, when the United States comes knocking and they're actually going to go to war with you, Russia does not really have your back. It's interesting to see what's going on, that China, right, has actually been the one mainly supplying advanced weapon systems, mainly to do, man-portable anti-air, like rocket launchers, man-pads, stuff like, their versions of Stinger missiles, right? So we have Russia profiting immensely from the global high prices of energy. China is also profiting. This is a huge boost in legitimacy for China because while Russia has their own problems, they are completely bogged down in Ukraine, so they can't really help out Iran in ways other than intelligence. China's stepping up to the plate, and this is a big signaling to a lot of other countries in the world that might be vassal states, potential states, client states of China. So China is very interested in projecting this influence that, so Russia sent some supplies during the war, but you have to understand Russia prioritizes its fight in Ukraine absolutely overall. Russia's it's something like 30 to 35% of Russia's government budget is war. It's strictly for war fighting. Pakistan, right? Blessed be the peacemaker. Yeah, like that's a big thing to pull away from this, guys. Pakistan actually doesn't want this global conflict really to spiral out of control. So W to Pakistan. All right. Yeah. I've never been so embarrassed by great job, Trump. I've never been so embarrassed by giving someone my support. I mean, you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there who supported Donald Trump. And, if you're just an average voter, it's like, no one's really trying to hold you as guilty necessarily. I mean, you might have voted for Donald Trump. You didn't vote for this, right? Where the F is Nick? He's sick. I've already said it a bunch of times. He's sick. He's getting better. I think he got a bad flu, or he got He got food poisoning, gave himself food poisoning, something like that. He'll be back on Monday. All right. So the war overall, the war is going to continue. We're still in a bit of a lull right now, but there's still missiles falling. There's still drones. There's still stuff popping off. So we are getting signaling from Pete Hegseth. We are getting signaling from pretty much everybody in the U.S. government and the Israeli government that this war is going to resume very shortly. Probably within the next few days. It's already breaking down. So, yeah, that's pretty much the update. JD Vance, of course, being tied to this diplomatic failure, right? And it's truly bad faith, right? He wasn't sent there with any goal other than to sour any sort of peace negotiations. He went to Pakistan. Well, the Pakistani prime minister or president, whatever, I don't really know. He was in good faith, and he goes, I want to do these peace talks in my country. We got nuclear weapons, so no one's really going to try us. And JD Vance shows up and he goes, well, we demanded all of this from Iran, and Iran didn't capitulate. He wanted full capitulation from Iran. This is JD Vance really at his worst. You see the frolicking kind of stance that he has as he gets off the plane. He has a very dainty kind of gait to him. He is really the worst kind of leader. He is like a projection. He's like a hologram. This guy is completely vacuous. There's like nothing there. And he was sent there explicitly to sabotage this peace deal, to make sure on behalf of Israel that there was no peace. So that's where we are with the war. The US has a blockade. Iran has their blockade. It's only going to get worse from there. And the allies, they're not getting involved at all. France is pissed off about Israel violating the ceasefire terms in Lebanon. Of course, France has been trying to broker peace, of course. France has, of course, Lebanon is a former colonial state. Lebanon is a former colonial state of France. So France has vested interest in Lebanon's future, right? A large amount of Lebanese people speak French. Anyways, you get the point. France and the European Union do not want this. This is just bad. The energy war on top of the war on Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is sucking up a massive amount of resources. So just another poison pill type of negotiation? Absolutely. Yeah, it's a poison pill negotiation. It's not meant to go anywhere. It's meant to show that, we're trying to negotiate, but Iran's just, they're just so unreasonable. We can't negotiate with them. That's what JD Vance is meant to go there and attempt to show. Thankfully, people aren't really buying it. So back to the EU. The EU needs resources, and they need raw materials, and they need energy to basically for the logistics to fight Russia, right? To give Ukraine the equipment and the munitions necessary to manufacture them, which France and Germany recently both announced major rearmament programs. France and Germany, France specifically with the nuclear umbrella, the nuclear deterrent over Europe, and Germany with a massive conventional spending on like conventional military. So the EU needs resources from Africa, right? Raw materials, things like bauxite for aluminum. They need all sorts of cobalt. There's a lot of things that Europe needs from Africa. They also need energy from the Gulf. So Europe is really getting screwed by this. Of course, our Asian allies are getting highly screwed by this, and the clock is ticking to a global economic meltdown, and it'll be not just on the watch of JD Vance, it'll be because of JD Vance. It'll be him. He did not put up any fight in the lead up to this conflict whatsoever. There have been many planted reports in media about how JD Vance was the only one voicing dissent on going to war with Iran. This is not true. There is no evidence for it. It's just anonymous sourcing. So that's the war. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. We're going to resume heavy bombardment of Iran probably very soon. I like the long hair, but you look much better with short hair at this point in your life. You've been looksmaxing without calling it that. I've been calling it looksmaxing the whole time. I don't shy away from the term whatsoever. No, I think looksmaxing is I don't shy away from it. Anyways, but that's Iran. That is Iran. Yeah, I don't shy away from talking about like looksmaxing, like whatsoever. People be like, oh, Clav, like the big thing that people go against looksmaxers is they try to call looksmaxers gay and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I don't know, dude. How can you really say that, and your girl is getting stolen? So I know it's kind of a meme on this channel at this point, but hey, listen, we're ascending in 2026. Your girl is going, as Nick says. Y gig, guys, in the chat. Y gig. Your girl is going. All right. No, but I've been I got some New Balances. I'm gonna get back into running. I used to run, but probably at the beginning of like COVID, like lockdowns. So I'm gonna get back into that because lean is law, guys. Lean is law. If you want to actually like mog super hard, you got to get that body fat percentage down. Cardio is probably the best way to do that. So I'm gonna get back into that. Obviously, back into weights. I've done weights in like forever, so gonna do more of that. Maybe, and I don't know, probably more variety of stuff. Maybe some. I've done jujitsu once. That was probably one of the most like difficult exercise experiences in my whole life. That was probably like the most insanely tired. Jiu-jitsu is like, speaking of Joe Rogan, we're going to talk about Joe Rogan in a second here. But I have done jiu-jitsu, and oh my God, that was like 4 hours, and it was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, by the end of it, I think that is like about as like fucking tired as I've ever been in my life. Totally beat up. I had a great time. I was actually all right at it. Looksmaxing, just another function / outgrowth of the current relationship environment, just the way it is. Yeah, and I think looksmaxing overall, yeah, like lookism, it's kind of a brutal pill, actually. It's a reality pill, and it's hard for some people to swallow because it is like kind of ruthless. Like the mentality of it, at least. There's such things like tall poppy syndrome. When you start to do better than other people, or you look better than other people, they want to like kind of tear you down or whatever. So you see that with like clavicular or whatever, he does his like little staged overdose or whatever. People, clown on him, stuff, or they'll call him gay or like whatever. I think the makeup thing is probably the funniest thing. Because if you guys don't know, in show business, I worked in TV for like a long time, and everyone on camera, no matter it's a guy or a girl, they're wearing makeup. So, I mean, I'd imagine like probably half the guys in this room, are probably wearing makeup because they're on camera. I don't, because I'm not at that point of like, caring about that kind of stuff. I just like take care of my skin and stuff. Yeah, I think that the lookism pill is actually very brutal. I think when you apply a male mindset of total domination, of basically winning at all costs, you're going to create some haters. You're going to get people that don't like it. They're going to call you whatever, like I said, Clav puts on makeup or whatever. He's trying to go for a specific look, right? He puts on eyeliner because he's trying to be like, I don't know, like a princely, like Persian, thing from like 3,000 years ago. I don't know. He's going for some kind of like ancient twink kind of vibe or whatever. That's him, But I think if you're trying to copy somebody like Clav, that's not the point of looksmaxing. You're supposed to like go to like your strong suits of like how you actually like look good. Don't just like try to copy everybody else. For instance, like if you think like you look best, like super jacked, right? And you're like massive, which I don't know. I think I might have the frame to fill out like that, and I wouldn't mind being really big. Super. It is kind of a vibe. Would be like total Conan Barbarian, and I'm not going to sit here and say I like lifting weights. I think lifting weights hurts and like kind of sucks, but that's kind of the fun in it, right? So I think like if you want to go for that aesthetic, go for that aesthetic. If you want to be, mad athletic, kind of style, like go for that. Don't try to copy everybody else. Clavicular is clearly going for like a male model contract. That's like, I'm pretty sure that's what his intentions are. Somebody like Andrew Janik, that guy, I mean, he's just trying to be a total Chad, right? He's trying to be the number one Chad. I actually came onto Looksmaxing kind of ideas like way before I saw Clav with a channel, British guy called Aesthetics Waiting or Aesthetics Waiting TV. He has two channels, but Aesthetics Waiting's a British YouTuber, Looksmaxer, and he's actually got a lot of the cosmetic surgeries done that, like a lot of the face stuff that a lot of people talk about, but they never do. And so he's got really good results from it. And so that's kind of how I came on to like Looksmaxing. It was probably like over, I don't know, year and a half ago by finding Aesthetics Waiting, who's got a really good channel of just like social commentary. Like he's actually got he's got good takes on stuff. Like he just does like good takes. And my favorite one is his midwits and normies take on like NPCs, midwits and normies. It's so based, dude. Like some people like the fact that 50% of people don't have an internal monologue. They're walking around just not thinking, right? His video on that is actually hilarious. Anyways, by the way, thanks for getting the Fuentes content out there for those of us tuning on YouTube, plus the commentary much needed in this space. Yeah, no worries. I cover Nick so much to keep him on YouTube. Got to help out that way. You risk the channel and stuff, definitely, but it is what it is, right? So, all right, so let's get into this Joe Rogan today.
Trials.
What happened
and
here?
We have to do that because we need to be able to say there's good support when we recommend these therapeutics. If you look at those trials, there's a 30 to 40% remission rate for conditions like PTSD. Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, this is common knowledge now. I think like a lot of people know that there is probably some, hidden benefits in some of these substances.
we got nothing. We have almost nothing for these conditions. And today the FDA is also announcing the first ibogaine investigational new...
Oh, he's talking about ibogaine. Yeah, I don't know about that stuff. I guess it kind of works if you're trying to get off like alcohol and opiates, but yeah, I haven't heard very
drug
much
clearance.
I haven't heard very much good stuff about like people taking ibogaine, to be honest.
This will pave the way for the first and ever human trials in the United States.
Like I've heard stories of people like overdosing fairly easily on ibogaine and like ibogaine extracts, and they're trying to like go through like drug withdrawal. It's messed up, man.
To be clear, the FDA will also have criteria and circumstances that have to be used to administer these drugs. These drugs can have side effects, and so it's not like you go to the pharmacy and pick it up. It's like medications that are...
The way Joe looks so awkward. Why are these guys beaking so hard, man? Like, what's going on with the eyes here, man?
Administered in an ICU or an operating room. There are criteria for doing it in a controlled setting.
Okay, yeah. See, this is the thing, though, is everyone likes to say with psychedelics, oh, you're going to, like, administer them in a controlled setting. But there's no such thing as control when somebody gets, like, a massive dose of psychedelics.
Finally, given the urgency of today's mental health crisis, I just want to thank you, Mr. President, and say the FDA is proud to support this broader effort to evaluate new therapeutics for some of the greatest Americans we have in this country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Doing
President.
a great job, too. Appreciate
welcome to the
it.
live.
Marcus?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and, like, I think that when it comes to, like, this category of substances that for normies, NPCs, they probably mostly shouldn't have access to. That's... I think, like, magic mushrooms are probably fine to be legalized. I think weed is just kind of a cope. I think that's to get votes. I think like legalizing it at this point federally is just like a cope, totally. I don't think like we should really go beyond like legalizing like shrooms or stuff like that. I think like caffeine and nicotine, to be honest, is like the perfect pairing. If you can get like clean nicotine, if you can get like clean caffeine, I like my Red Bull, but we're seeing a lot of data recently that caffeine is actually really good for you. I've been up in my my caffeine dose. I got to drop that down on the sugar though. It's a little bit too much sugar, I'll be honest. I got to acquire the taste for the sugar freeze because I like energy drinks too much. But I was saying, so nicotine and caffeine have been proven to be neurogenic, meaning that they help grow new brain cells. They're just good for you overall. There's not really any bad parts of having a lot of clean caffeine and nicotine in your life. Black coffee only. Yeah, I like my coffee with cream. To be honest, I'm kind of weird, man. I like sweet energy drinks, and I only like my coffee with cream. If I put sugar in my coffee, I actually don't like the taste. It's the weirdest thing ever. And I started out when I was a teenager drinking coffee with tons of cream and sugar. And then I just went just cream. And now I can't stand the taste of a sugary coffee. It's the weirdest thing to me. And I like sweet stuff a lot.
To start off, Mr. President, thank you so much for having us in here and doing this. You're going to save a lot of lives with it. I'd like to say how grateful I am to have had the opportunity to go through the program and receive the Ibogaine. It absolutely changed my life for the better. I went through a lot of the programs that the veterans are going through, and I always kind of felt like I was a victim coming out of the program. When I came out of this, I felt like I had gotten my life back. That was 5 years ago. I literally lived the best days of my life every single day. I'm so thankful for everybody who's in this room to help out with this. I know.
Okay, it's listen, bro, we know you're a drug addict or whatever. This is not the priority to me. Let's be real. I'm fine with some psychedelics being legalized, but I think this is just a total ploy to get votes.
I know this is kind of a new frontier for us, and just the fact that we're taking this kind of slow as smooth as fast, and we're getting it in there so we can test this out so that we don't get ahead of ourselves. I think that's very impactful. I think there's a lot of people out there that need help, not only our veterans, but our civilian population that can benefit from this. And
yeah, and like I just said, I think some normies are not ready for this kind of level of, psychic evaluation that these drugs are going to put you through. These are really heavy duty. And I know, and your average person does not get the assault on the consciousness that a lot of these substances provide. So like I said, Ibogaine, that it's a little bit fringe, but if you start handing out, I don't know, stuff like acid too, if you're handing out acid to the population, that's going to be a little bit dangerous. Let's be real. So a lot of people are going to get MK Ultra. These are extremely powerful substances.
It's going to do great things for our country to get it back on track and open up a lot of doorways and pathways for us to be successful in the future. Thank you for your time.
That's fantastic. So you've done this 5 years?
Yes, sir.
And it's just been a whole different thing.
Every single day is a better day for me.
Wow, that's amazing, really.
It's such an awkward response, dude. It's just like a dog almost. It's dude, we can tell that you're a Trump sycophant, Trump loyalist. Psychedelics aren't going to change that part about you. Okay, let's be real. And, Joe has been out here talking about, well, I don't like how Trump has been handling the immigration stuff. I'm totally against the war and this and that. And, I'm so disappointed in Trump. Yet here he is, standing behind him awkwardly as hell, helping him sign this bill, okay? Giving him the celebrity endorsement. It's the things that matter, Joe, let's be real. Deporting tens of millions of illegal migrants out of the country, these are the things that actually matter, all right? Not going to war with Iran, all right, for Israel, that's the thing that actually matters, all right? I'm sorry, but this is not a thing that I care about, all right? So I think maybe it's me because of Canadian, we've experienced drug legalization here, decriminalization here. You become, pretty clear-pilled on that issue. It's clear it's a control mechanism. They do it to get votes, and then it's very clear that once they set the mechanism up for industry, then Trump and his cronies are going to control it. It's exactly what happened here in Canada with the legalization of cannabis and the subsequent decriminalization across various municipalities. Is that when it came to legalization of cannabis in Ontario, it was divvied up with the powers that be, very corrupt. It was given out to people who are close to the party. And then when you had decriminalization of hard drugs in places like Vancouver in British Columbia and Toronto, you had city councilors and local politicians who are being directly tied to supplying these safe supply, basically drug dealer like clinic. They're selling drugs, right? Just packaged more nicely and stuff like that. Trump losing points with vets over the war, so he's trying to throw him a bone here. That's the whole like veteran coded signaling thing. You're trying to appeal to all the guys, and no offense if you have a beard or a truck, right? But they want to get all the guys with the beards and the trucks on board. So we talked about the veterans, all right? It's very plain as day, and I can't stand how Rogan just steps in line, right? I was talking about this actually with my aunt, right? My aunt is actually very left, like liberal, self-describes like almost socialist, but I love her dearly. It doesn't matter to me like whatsoever. But we have a shared distaste of Rogan. I don't like flip-floppers. We'll get into more like flip-floppers later.
I can vouch for that.
Glazers.
Come here.
Disgusting glaze.
Good guys. I didn't realize you were involved in it already. It's the best
Yes, sir.
testament you can have. There's nothing better than that. A man who's really respected by everybody, and he's a fantastic person, Joe Rogan, to say a few words, please, Joe.
Well, I want to say that I'm here because of the man to my left. Brian
One of the most respected guys here. All right. The not funny comedian. All right. Let's be real.
Hubbard and former Texas Governor Rick Perry came on my podcast. They told me how impactful this medicine is. And having that conversation with them, millions of people got a chance to hear their story, hear the stories of all the different people that have had life-changing experiences from it. And I want Brian to be able to speak about this.
Good. Brian, please.
Like, okay, we have to bring in like multiple people to have different kinds of stories. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I heard that, Joe.
It's
You
like
have no
awkward.
trouble speaking. He's got no trouble speaking.
I want to assure you that my presence here is the most concrete affirmation that God has a wonderful sense of humor.
Like, come on, get on with it. Yeah, rip Rogan.
Thank you.
F in the chat for Rogan.
Federal prohibition of psychedelic medicine in America is over. On the 250th year.
Ugh, full body cringe, dude. Like this is like you're declaring the Emancipation Proclamation, but you're a bunch of neckbeard libertarians on Reddit. Oh my god, dude. Oh my god, they're actually gonna decriminalize ibogaine, dude. Oh my god, like I'm cooming, dude.
On the 250th year of our nation's founding, everyone who has fought for this day through decades of monumental struggle, sacrifice, and suffering can now declare a seminal victory.
Is he really going for like the Civil War general kind of like tone? Like he grew out the beard and he's like, I'm gonna deliver it. I like probably hand wrote this like cursive.
For life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, rights we bear as images of our eternal Creator, whose essence is almighty, eternal, unconditional love for each and every one of us. This is the end of the beginning.
This guy's eyes are bugging out, bro. He's beaking super hard right now.
We have moved mountains, yet there are mountains to move.
Holy, with the awkward energy in the room. Like look at the dour bunch. Trump is looking down. Like all these guys are just like deadpan. Joe's just looking up. He doesn't want to be here. Oh man.
Government systems which have relentlessly suppressed psychedelics are the same systems which will now manage their emergence. We dare not let our guard down for 1 second.
I know, the deepest part of Virginia, dude. I mean, he's really going for the Civil War general tone. That's really what he thought was going to hit.
Be hair trigger ready to impose accountability for incompetence, obstruction, or failure. Credit.
Yeah, it's true. They're all on 200 milligram gummies. That's why everyone's staring off into the void. Is RFK Jr. all gave him a gummy or whatever.
Belongs where credit is due.
Sweet Virginia.
With this executive order, President Trump has delivered.
Thank you for your wine, California. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about like all these like psychedelics and drugs and stuff like that. It's like, can we just like live healthy lives? Have our nicotine, our caffeine, eat like Mediterranean diets, and just sip some wine, and just can we just do that like Romans? We was Romans, weren't we?
An epic victory for all humanity. I thank him for having the courage to make this happen, and my mission brother, Joe Rogan, for having the spine to make the ask. To our brothers and sisters in Gabon, you have our deepest gratitude for your stewardship of the sacred tree grown for the healing of nations.
The sacred tree, dude. Like, give me a break. Okay, listen. I know Trump has been on some Antichrist stuff recently, and we're going to be getting to that. The sacred tree, like, dude, listen, are we Christians? Are we Christians here? The sacred tree, it's like it's a psychedelic root. Like, it makes people trip, and if you take too much, it'll kill you. Like, Ibogane's a particularly, that's what I don't like kind of about this whole thing, is the kind of medical ignorance, the kind of ignorance about like what these things even are. But half of these guys in the room don't even know like one thing about Ibogaine, but you can totally overdose and die on Ibogaine. People who go to get off hard drugs, they'll go to these treatments in like Africa, and then they'll overdose on all that stuff. So no,
I will do my best to deliver the respect and honor you deserve for helping heal this nation. It is my joy to deliver these good tidings unto the meek, which will hopefully bind up the brokenhearted, proclaim liberty to the captives.
Okay, like, it's so over the top. Like, dude, you are not delivering like the Emancipation Proclamation. Like, please, like, cool it with the over the top performativeness.
And the opening of the prison.
I know, good tidings.
To all who are bound. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you.
Are like, what are we blessing? Like the Ibogaine tree too? It's like, it's such a weird energy here. Like, dude, we're not like, this is not like you're doing something actually like monumental. Like, you're legalizing like a plant, like a root that doesn't even grow in America. All right. Like, what is going on with this? It's just such a weird energy. I don't see, like, this is a total distraction effort. Like, if you think like this matters at all, I'm sorry, but there's a cataclysm in the Middle East going on. All right. Like, there's a lot worse stuff. There are tens of millions of people undocumented in the country that are here illegally, all right, that they're not doing anything about, or nearly enough about.
I want to tell everybody how this happened. I sent President Trump some information. We have a gigantic opiate problem in this country, obviously. In 2024, more than 80,000 people died of overdoses. It's a horrible number. And there's more than 5 million people that are addicted to opiates right now in this country. With one dose of Ibogaine, more than 80% of people are free of that addiction.
And I just don't like this idea that we can just wave a magic wand. We can just import enough of this root, this magic root from Africa, give people a dose of it, and then like 80% of the time, well, they're just going to quit their drug of choice or alcohol or whatever. That doesn't address the underlying problem, the reasons why they're abusing opiates or alcohol or prescription pills, whatever have you, right? Where they're abusing weed or psychedelics, because you can abuse psychedelics too. That's the thing. A lot of these people that, they glaze psychedelics super hard. They don't have that much experience with them. They haven't been humbled by them, and they think that everyone should have them. That's a common thing. Somebody does shrooms or whatever, and they go out and they tell everybody that they got to, that they got to do them too. And I don't believe that's a thing. That's right.
It's more than 90%.
If you don't address the underlying problems of why somebody takes up a hard drug addiction, then they're just eventually going to find themselves back at square one. Maybe it's somewhere else, or maybe it's not drugs. Maybe they take up gambling. Maybe they have a sex addiction or something like that. Maybe they get into something, worse, perhaps, or get themselves into worse situations.
I sent him that information. The text message came back, sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it. It was literally that quick. These drugs are illegal not because they're harmful. They're illegal because of the 1970 Controlled Substances Act that was passed.
And he only did that with you, Joe, because, Joe, you've been openly criticizing him. This is the power of criticizing people, right? But Joe comes right back to the plantation. Joe says, oh, well, I don't like the way that migrants are being treated by ICE. Oh, I don't like this, that what's going on with this war in Iran. Okay. Well, then why are you in the Oval Office giving him your support? Why? Because we're going to legalize ibogaine? Thousands of people are dead in Gaza. A couple thousand more are dead in Iran so far. The death tolls are like above 2,000 or something like that. These are in the global economy is literally being tanked by the guy sitting in front of you. Right, we're about to have a total global recession because of the actions of the guy sitting in front of you. And you think that, I can show him a little bit of my support by, this is good enough for the veterans. You can reason with yourself enough. And just because he wants to be regarded in the club there. And of course, for Trump, it's just the easiest play. Trump goes, oh, well, this is the thing Joe wants. Well, I'll give Joe the thing that he wants, what his people care about, drugs. Okay, easy way to beat your addiction, and that's a funny thing too, right? We can't ignore kind of the context of discussing taking something like ibogaine to get off of a substance that you've gotten yourself into this predicament where you lack the impulse control, the self-regulation to moderate your consumption of drugs or alcohol, what have you. You find yourself in this predicament where you can't self-regulate enough, and so you choose an easy way out of getting off of your addiction by taking a extremely potent psychedelic, which you really have no idea mentally what it does to you. I mean, you guys can look into the science of this, but people are permanently altered after taking psychedelics. Literally all people. It's just a fact that if you take psychedelics, it alters your brain chemistry. Now, you could argue what kind of altering it does to your brain chemistry, structure of your brain. Some say it's positive, negative, whatever, right? Leave that argument up to the scientists, right? It's an easy cop, right? It's an easy sell to say to somebody, look, I know you're downtrodden, I know you're addicted to drugs, but here, just take this really expensive treatment at this clinic. You can lie down and take this ibogaine or whatever and pay $1,000, $2,000, and your insurance is going to cover it. And wow, what a surprise! 80% of people got up, but then what happened to the other 20% that didn't get off of it? That's you can't really ignore that aspect of it. And then what other side effects are you creating? Because these drugs are not, they're not completely benevolent. The mind is immaterial. Consciousness is completely immaterial. So once somebody's mind is broken, you can't really do anything about that. And if you guys know anything about psychedelics, know anyone in your life that may have broken their brain or fried their brain, as colloquially has been said, you don't really fry your brain, obviously, but people change permanently. There's been famous cases, right? Syd Barrett of Pink Floyd, right? Famously lost his mind due to having schizophrenia from a young age and having heavy psychedelic drug usage. I believe it was LSD. So these things are not exactly studied completely. These things are much more powerful in the psyche than I think your average normie or NPC really gives them credit for. Vast majority of people, if they do trip on one of these substances, it was when they were a teenager and they did it once or twice and it wasn't that much and they don't really remember it and they, puked and fell asleep or something like that. And, they have kind of an innocent coming of age story to tell to their kids when they're older and they're sitting in their paid for house or whatever. Okay. But that's a lot different than the society having very easy access to very powerful psychedelics. I think the sheer amount of underlying mental illnesses that you're going to see pop out of that into wider society, especially because you have no mental asylums to get these people. You, as somebody that may not have gone like fully bipolar, fully schizophrenic, insert whatever mental illness, if anybody like who's had a bad trip, or if you've had a bad trip yourself, you know exactly how terrible that feels. And exactly, most people would describe it as, it basically makes you feel like you're going crazy for 8 to 24 hours, right? I think Clavicular talked about he had a bad acid trip like a year ago or something like that. And he's swore off of it and he'll never touch the stuff ever again. And there's a lot of people that happens to, and they try psychedelics and they go, I'm never going to touch that stuff ever again. You don't need, you're playing with your mind. Your mind is an incredibly precious thing. You lose that. You don't know what you have until you lose it. Think about your consciousness. You're solid in your thoughts and your understanding of who you are. But if you dematerialize that, that's an incredibly dangerous thing for your average normie, midwit, stupid person to, be trying to deal with. What are you guys saying? You look smooth. Thank you. I've been working on the skincare. The alien smokescreen flopped, so now they have to pivot to psychedelic bros to find something to distract the war, which is probably a partial distraction from the files. Brutal. Absolutely, Yakub secretary, and base name, by the way. You're the secretary to Yakub. That's an elevated title, bro. Listen, that's different. You're in the lab. Base name. But yeah, the alien thing, it's stupid. I know Joe has talked about that at length. Honestly, I don't have a big interest in aliens. I've been into astronomy since I was pretty young, got into telescopes and all that kind of stuff in my later 20s. So, I've done a fair bit of research on the stars and the cosmos myself. Okay. Not super big on the whole aliens thing. If you know, okay. If you're into stuff like physics and, astronomy, why it's not very likely.
By the Richard Nixon administration. They did it to target the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement. It's not because these drugs harm people. And for 56 years...
Yeah, and I just don't like this idea that these things don't harm people, dude. I know people that have been permanently altered by taking psychedelics. It's not completely benign. Saw the Grateful Dead 3 times when Jerry is still alive. Now that's how you do it. Good times. Yeah, no, I love the Grateful Dead. There's this show from, I think, Alpine Valley, I think it is. You can find it on YouTube. It's fantastic video recording. But Uncle John's Band, that's one of my favorite performances of Uncle John's Band. I think they played Help on the Way and Franklin's Tower and stuff like that. So I love Blues for Allah. Blues for Allah and American Beauty. It's probably my 2 favorite Dead albums. And yeah, psychedelics are power tools for the mind, not to be taken lightly. Absolutely do not mess around lightly with those things. If you do, I don't know, I wouldn't tell you to do any of that stuff. I would tell you to kind of if YouTube is listening, I'm just going to tell you to stay clear of these powerful mind altering substances that your average normies and NPCs really don't have the mental equipment. And I'll just say this, religion, if you don't have religion going into something like that, you're kind of setting yourself up for disaster.
We've lived under those terrible conditions. We're free of that now. We're free of that now.
I have lost weight. Thank you, Flo. 7777777.
Now, thanks to all these people that we see next to me, and thanks to President Trump.
I want to thank
Glaze. Welcome to the Glaze.
you. We all respect Joe, and it's a little bit more liberal than that's okay. I have a lot of friends that are liberal, but Joe is.
Wow, dude, how do you take that? He's like literally right there. You go, oh my God.
An amazing guy, and he wrote me a little note about this, and I had it checked out. I didn't just do it. I had it checked out. I went to Bobby and Oz. I went to some of the people that work for you, real pros, and everybody.
Oh yeah, Dr. Oz, right? Yeah, we have Dr. like Mehmet Oz. Like, we're come on, dude. He's like literally like a Turkish like talk show host. Like, give me a break.
He came back with the same answer. You know, normally they'll come back, because this happens a lot. We have a couple of them like that where they're not sure. It's like, you know, it goes two ways. This thing, everybody thought it was incredible. And I told Bobby, I said, Bobby, let's just do it and get Oz involved, and it's going to get done so quickly. And
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the only guy in the planet who deadlifts with jeans on. Like, what was that picture all about? Like, that's the most insane thing, and like not a good way. Like, I'm sorry, but what are you lifting in jeans, bro?
You guys did a great job. Would you like to say something else?
Mr. President, I want to thank Vance, who's hiding in the back there, who actually on Sunday wrote a draft for this. You already thanked Heidi and Kelly, but you know, Susie Wiles makes everything run here. This was an unimaginable.
Susie Wiles makes everything run here. Yep, we know she does, and we loathe her for it.
Task in 1 week to be able to go from a series of connections and communications with Joe Rogan through the honey badger of them all, Bobby Kennedy, who said, we're not going to stop. We didn't start calling.
Like the chuckles and just the glazing. And it's like, yeah, we're going to go through Joe Rogan on this. It's like, we're going to listen to Joe Rogan of all people. It's like, the guy's a total meathead, dude. Like, okay, listen, guys, like, I know a lot of the audience isn't into MMA, and I'm not like a big MMA head myself, but you got to know this, all right? Joe has Palumbo. Palumbo is like that. He's got like that shape of his gut. He's basically destroyed his gut from like insane amounts of crazy supplements, steroids too. Like that Palumbo gut, that's disgusting, bro. Like, I don't know how you I don't know how you look at somebody like Joe Rogan's body and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna listen to that guy for health. Right? I mean, he's literally, his stomach is like churned inside on itself. I mean, just like look up a picture of Joe Rogan with his shirt off. Right? He has Palumbo. It's like, well, how are you like listening to a guy like that about health?
Calling everyone down. The fight. Steph Spears been involved, and Chris Klump, who's been doing a fantastic job helping run everything in great efficiency, made something. And I just want to emphasize this. This is an entire paradigm shift away from a one-day-a-pill model, which has failed so many. And to the many who are drug resistant that Joe just spoke to, offers them a way of getting out of that rut. The question now is, can we study why it works to understand it better, to use it better? That's what.
And of course, Joe's intentions are good because, you know, if you're trying to get off a lot of these substances, they put you on stuff like, was it methadone or whatever that, you know, you're basically on it for life, which is obviously bad. But what are the consequences coming down from this? Imposing psychedelics is completely harmless. I think it is irresponsible. I don't agree with it. And I wouldn't really advise like your average person to go out there and start experimenting with this stuff. And I don't really think that it's a wise decision to allow the public, to be honest. Like, I get the libertarian argument, right? But sometimes it's just not meant for you, you know? There's a reason maybe that you weren't in circles where there was a lot of psychedelics. All right. I'm not going to like say why you weren't in those circles. All right. But you know, it wasn't fate. It wasn't fated. All right. It wasn't meant to be. And I think like tons of people go their entire lives without touching any of these substances, and they live perfectly normal, happy lives, sane, happy. They go through, and there's lots of people that go through horrible stuff. There are tons of people that go through war, like hell of bad stuff. Okay. And you don't need to trip to get over it. There's other ways. So I think it's an easy way out. It's of course, like I said, Joe's in good faith. You know, I don't think this is necessarily, I'm not trying to knock him too hard. Obviously, I knock him for flip-flopping and glazing Trump when he's been criticizing him over immigration and the war in Iran. Obviously, that is quite the flip-flop. And it's, you know, that is completely like that kind of stuff just wrecks your credibility. But, you know, he has good intentions behind this. I just think it's unwise. I think letting the population have their hands on these insanely powerful substances is just an unwise decision at this point, especially ibogaine, because you actually can't hurt yourself with that. So, yeah. So, that's what I think of that. Moving on. That's what I think of that, guys. So, you know, you finally got Blasphemer's take on psychedelics. You know, I guess a lot of people have a long time waiting for my take on that, I guess. Not really. I'm joking, of course. No one cares. I don't care about drugs, to be honest. I just think you know, the fact that there's Rogan and all that kind of stuff. I think actually like the topic of drugs themselves, like politically, they're just insanely boring. But when it comes up, you know, you got to talk about it. All right. So, word from the Pope, and then I think the clip is also Donald Trump's response. So, Donald Trump has been acting very, very naughty lately.
Ravaged by a handful of tyrants, yet is held together by a multitude of supportive brothers and sisters. The masters of war pretend not to know that it takes only a moment to destroy, yet often a lifetime is often not enough to rebuild. They turn.
It's so true, man. Like, if you actually like, build stuff, you realize you're like, man, like actually building stuff takes like so much more energy than blowing it up. Like, that's so true, dude.
A blind eye to the fact that billions of dollars are spent on killing, on devastation, yet the resources needed for healing, education, and restoration are nowhere to be found.
Well, yeah, wasn't that part of Trump's promise for like making America great again? Well, isn't like the Pope kind of calling you out, Trump, on your domestic issues? I mean, I know he's talking about global stuff, but isn't it true though that like all of this money that's being spent on bombing Iran, $1 billion a day, what could you solve in America if you spent $1 billion a day on it? Just think about that. Spending $1 billion a day on one thing in America till it's fixed, and then you move on to the next thing. It's like, what if you just did that? What if you bombed $1 billion a day onto America's problems? What if you did that?
Jesus told us, "Blessed are the peacemakers, but woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain, dragging that which is sacred into darkness and filth."
I love this guy, man. I love the new Pope. Dragging that which is sacred into the darkness and filth. I mean, has he been playing Dark Souls, bro? Is our first Dark Souls Pope? Yeah, you could solve a lot of problems in America with that amount of money. $1 billion a day until the problem's fixed. I mean, geez, man, just think about what you could get done. But dragging that which is sacred into the darkness and filth, man, that's like exactly what we're seeing. You see Pete Hegseth get up there and invoke Jesus in this, to me, which is one of the worst wars that we've seen so far. Unprovoked, sneak attack, a decapitation strike, a murderous decapitation strike, killing children, really have no regard for civilian lives, and then invoking Christ on top of that. Like Pete Hegseth, he's got his big cross tattoos, and he likes to do this, crusader LARP, and I just find that stuff to be extremely repulsive. It's almost worse than when you see like I get jihadists, yeah, they're kind of they're obviously heretics, right? But they're like barbarians, all right? They're like desert barbarians, like where they're sand people. Like we literally expect them, like ISIS, like yeah, well they're from the sand, like that's what we kind of expect them to be like. They're angry, okay? It's like when you start invoking like Christianity to wage your war, like that's when you, in the Western like mindset, we start thinking about like, you want to start a holy war to do what exactly? Like, I'm sorry, but the Pope never blesses war. And this is what I don't get about the whole MAGA backlash too. Popes just don't bless wars like that, bro. They haven't been blessing wars for a long time. It's been a long time since a Pope ever blessed a war. They just don't do that. They don't take sides. That's just not what they do. They're not politicians. And then Trump says, well, he's soft on crime. I'm sorry, but like he's not law enforcement. He's not a politician. That's like the most ridiculous statement.
Into darkness and filth.
And dude, like exactly that. It's profane, bro. It's like the inverse of the sacred is the profane, and this is exactly what we're seeing here. You're like the center of profanity with Donald Trump at this point.
Criticize people who, quote, manipulate religion for political or military gain. Do you think that he was talking about you?
It's very important that the Pope understands. Very, very important. It'd be nice not to say it. Iran killed 42,000 people that were...
Okay, completely made up number. That is like literally a CIA Mossad made up number.
Totally unarmed. They were protesting.
Like the actual number of protesters, if you even want to call them that, they're not protesters. It's probably closer to like 5,000 to 8,000, and they're not protesters. These are like guys in black masks with AKs, shotguns, RPGs, machine guns, all sorts of stuff, grenades, and they're shooting at the police in Tehran. They're shooting at the police in Kermanshah, which is Kermanshah is like a big Kurdish city near the I guess it would be the western Iraqi border where the Kurds live, in that part of Iran where the uprisings were mainly happening. So you have these Kurds essentially that are doing all sorts of civil unrest, right? This is insurrectionist activity. They're shooting at the cops. They're setting up blockades. They're pulling off assassinations. They're lighting police stations on fire. So if you are the government of Iran, well, this is clearly it's an attack on Iran, right? From Israel, from the CIA, from the Kurds, all right? They are trying to usurp your power system. They're trying to take you out. Well, the Iranian state security forces tasked with internal security of the Iranian state, well, they are going to return fire at these protesters, and they're going to track them
Here's
down.
one of the authors of the bill. How are you guys doing? Here's one of the authors of the bill.
Okay.
How are you guys doing?
Well,
We just want to... Here's one of the authors of the bill. How are you guys doing?
Well, we just lost we lost that one, but you guys heard that one. And now we're going to hear, might as well bring this up. All right, so we're going to talk about this image real quick. So Trump said that, I'm sure you guys heard a lot of people talk about this. Trump said that, I thought I looked like a Red Cross doctor. Well, you don't see a Red Cross anywhere. Everyone knows this is how Jesus is depicted. This is the classic depiction of Jesus, right? With the white and the red robes. He is literally emanating like a miracle, like energy. This is like when you're like casting in like a video game. He's literally casting like a miracle on a sick man. You have all these people literally praying to him. I don't know if you can see the lady here. It's off to the side, but she's literally praying to Donald Trump. And then above, I think one of the most disturbing parts of this AI image was this part up here, where you see my mouse cursor, which was actually edited. That there was actually, it was supposed to be all planes. Up here is all supposed to be fighter jets. And then Trump edited the original using AI to insert a bunch of like these basically like winged horned demons, essentially. Are they supposed to be angels? But they look quite demonic to me. They look pretty gross and intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, of course, all the people, the sycophants, were trying to apologize this away. Oh, he didn't actually post it. That was the big mega cope, was that Donald Trump didn't actually post this himself. It was a staffer. All right. So yeah, I mean, this is about as blasphemous as it gets right here. Depicting yourself as Christ is this is like a literal feature. This is not a bug. This is a feature of an Antichrist. And the reason I say Antichrist is because it's a title, right? So there can be plural throughout the world. So, for instance, like a lot of people regard Vladimir Putin as an Antichrist or whatever, right? So, which we might cover another time. Gog Magog. Some people think Russia is Magog, and at least that's what Reagan thought, right? So Tucker has been on the nose lately with the amount of good takes I've heard from him. I disagree with him that we need to help Vance, though. We really don't. Yeah, and see, that's the thing about Tucker, right? Is that Tucker has been exceptionally good on the war lately. He's been like super anti-Semitic, you could say, just like openly. Okay, Tucker just going for it, I guess. Very anti-Semitic. Tucker with the blood libel. It's actually shocking how much blood libel Tucker's been spewing, and I mean, it's just raw anti-Semitism. Hasn't said anything about Vance in a good while. I think Tucker may run himself. Yeah, but if Tucker runs, he's a spoiler. If Tucker runs, he is there to take all of that exactly counter-Semite. Yeah, that counter-Semite energy. Tucker is there to run potentially in the primary, and Tucker will get a lot of votes in the primary. Tucker will bow out, and Tucker will endorse JD Vance. So that's the play, right? Tucker Buckley Carlson works in the JD Vance office. Their connections with 1749 Capital are very apparent. They're literally funded both by Peter Thiel. They are part of the same outfit. They're practically family at this point. So that is the play. That is a prediction that I'm going to be making right here. It's not nothing. I think some people have probably made this prediction as well, that Tucker's going to run. He's going to be a spoiler, like an intentional spoiler, that he will run in the primary. He will run to get the anti-Israel lobby, that vote on the right wing, right? He will run on America First platform, and then he will bow out. He will drop out of the primary, and then all of that support, all of that weight of his endorsement will go behind JD Vance. So let's hear what Pope Leo has to say. This is from DW News.
Narrative that has not been accurate in all of its aspects, but because of the political situation created when on the first day of the trip, the President of the United States made some comments about myself. Much of what has been written since then has been more commentary on commentary, trying to interpret what has been said. Just one little example, the talk that I gave at the prayer meeting for peace a couple of days ago was prepared 2 weeks ago, well before the president ever commented on myself and on the message of peace that I am promoting. And yet, as it happens, it was looked at as if I was trying to debate, again, the president, which is not my interest at all.
He's literally on a mission of peace in Africa. If you guys don't know, the context of the Pope's visit to Africa is it's very important to the region because there's major civil wars. There's also major just regional wars between countries going on in Africa, and they are suspending, fighting. They are having ceasefires because of the Pope's presence, because he is showing up, and he's trying to start dialogue. He's trying to get of these Africans to stop fighting each other, right? To bring them together, which is obviously a very noble thing. Let's be real. I think the world is better off if there's less war in it overall. I think the world is better off if there's less war in Africa.
Now let's bring in Colleen Dolly.
All right, we don't need to listen to these old twerps. So I get I've been on Twitter. You guys, follow me on Twitter and stuff. Blasphemer 1054. I'm here. All right, got a plug. All right. This is a Nick tweet from May of last year, so almost a year ago, and I thought I'd bring this up because I've been arguing with people on Twitter. A lot of these magatards, they get out there and they like to, parrot what the president is saying that, oh, he's a liberal, that, oh, their bandwidth. Not enough video to maintain smooth streaming. How's the stream looking, guys? Poor quality. How's our stream looking? Not enough video. How's the stream looking? It says I'm getting like an error mess. It's like not enough video to maintain smooth streaming. It's looking good on my end. I think we're good. Okay. Yeah, okay. Anyways. So what was I saying? I think we're good. I think we just had a little YouTube hiccup. Let me know in the chat if the stream quality is good or not. Anyways, what was I saying? So, arguing with people, they often go to, well, the Catholic Church is becoming very liberal. All right, it's looking crispy. Couple short breaks. Yeah, okay, the message went away. We're good. All right, we're good. So people will often come at Catholics, and they'll come at the Pope, and they'll come at me or you, right? Who's defending the Pope, and they'll say, well, he's a liberal because, well, he says we should be nice to migrants, right? Well, what I don't get what is wrong with that. Yes, he says that, he says that nations have the right to their border laws. He said that over and over again. So it's completely inaccurate to say that Pope Leo is open borders whatsoever. What he has, and so what we have here is a tweet from Nick from about a year ago. He says, Pope Leo the 14th describes the African refugee crisis in Lampedusa, Italy, and calls mass migration a serious problem that must be dealt with globally while treating people with respect. Sounds right to me. And I agree. Let's hear.
Both the first reading and the gospel.
It's a bit quiet.
Very clear, a message which Pope Francis has been hammering home time and again since his very first trip.
Turn it up a bit.
When he went to this little community, an island in southern Italy, the town of Lampedusa, where all these immigrants continue to come. It's a huge problem, and it's a problem worldwide, not only in this country. There's got to be a way both to solve the problem, but also to treat people with respect. Every one of us, whether we were born in the United States of America or on the North Pole, we all are given that gift of being created in the image and likeness of God. And the day we forget that is the day we forget who we are. We forget who Christ has called us to be.
Yeah, exactly. And, discussing is talking about discussing mass deportations with liberals, right? This is a trump card that if you are a Christian, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Groyper, far right, whatever, you have this in your pocket to say, the Pope says to treat people with respect and dignity, but he says, mass migration is a serious problem. Right? He says it's a problem in Lampedusa, Italy, and he says it's a serious problem that must be dealt with globally. All right? Does that sound like open borders to you? Does that sound like a liberal that wants to just let everybody in? No, absolutely not. And really, we have to call out the performative cruelty, all right, surrounding the mass deportation narrative, where the Trump administration and his ilk, JD Vance simps, they're not serious whatsoever of actual deportations. They're not going to follow through with it whatsoever. But they will talk the most cruel rhetoric, all right? Let them drown in the Mediterranean, that kind of stuff, right? Like very Bronze Age pervert tier kind of stuff, all right? Which is gross. That's not Christian. And those people, the Bronze Age, the Bapsphere is not Christian, right? JD Vance married a Hindu, right? I don't really think that's very Christian of you, very Catholic of you to marry a Hindu, to be absolutely honest. I don't think Donald Trump is Christian at all right? So I don't think these people, they don't value, they don't have the same values that we do. We understand whether you're white, whether you're European, you're Asian, you're African, you're Indian, Polynesian, whatever you are, Native American, whatever race you are, you're a human being created in the image of God. So once we get that established, we go, well, we also the laws of our nation, right? And we have, as a people, we have the right to enforce the laws of our nation. And the Pope has said that over and over again. So this attack that, oh, the Pope's a liberal, the Pope is open borders, it's completely false. And you can see right here, he just says it's a problem. Thank you for the $2 super chat. Word to your llama 817. Do you think JD Vance is a plant? Well, yeah, he's planted by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel with 1749 Capital, which is Peter Thiel's investment firm, is they fund a lot of different stuff, right? So maybe if you've heard of Dime Square, there's a whole thing in New York City with these, these fashion magazines, a lot of these music labels, a lot of these videography kind of stuff. In New York City, there's a lot of clubs, a lot of nightclubs that are Peter Thiel funded, right? So 1749 Capital, it's Thiel's vehicle for funding things that he wants to have a plausible deniability to say that I'm not directly involved in these things. So Dime Square is one of those things. Benny and Basil, shout out to the Benny and Basil show. Love that show. They go off on the Dime Square people super hard, but though that's one aspect of the Thiel network. And 1749 Capital funds Tucker Carlson. That is where Tucker Carlson gets the majority of the investment into his firm, into his media company. And 1749 Capital is what has bankrolled JD Vance's entire political career. So yes, I think that JD Vance is a total plant. He's not a grassroots guy whatsoever. The hillbilly elegy thing, that is totally fake. My Mima, this and that, like it's totally, like, I'm not saying like that is completely made up, but it is, it's, made to sound more sympathetic than you really should be to it, right? Like he's trying to be like, well, my family had, a history of heroin addiction or whatever, right? Tucker calls it Israelism. Joel Webbin, sorry, I can't pronounce it. Joel Webbin calls it Holocaustianity. Do you watch Joel at NXR Studios? I watch a little bit of Joel. I like him. He's very Protestant. So there's not really my kind of flavor, but he is really good on like a lot of like the issues. I like him for being the based Matt Walsh that he is. Let's be real. He's the Matt Walsh that, we actually deserve. Like let's be real. Like, so on Vance marrying a Hindu, I don't really care because whoever you love shouldn't be in the public's discussion on her religion. If she is morally good, then it's all right with me. Yeah, I mean, that's up to you, right? Like, listen, that's a personal decision for, I think for a couple to make, right? You're making a family, right? And I can't really like on an individual level and be like, oh, well, you married an Indian woman, thus like you're bad. No, I don't think like that whatsoever. And, I don't like this whole like, race mixing dialogue gets kind of muddled and down and stuff like that with a lot of people that just have hate in their hearts and stuff like that. So no, I don't think just because you're like marrying an Indian woman means, or that you're marrying a Hindu that, that's like a bad thing, but it's like you are the Catholic vice president of the United States of America. That's like, I'm sorry, but that's not correct. Like a Catholic shouldn't be married to somebody that's not a Christian. I think that's just an unwise decision to make. I've seen it play not in that specific combination. I've seen people marry Jews and it go bad. Cut off from their family. Maybe it's a story for another day. But marrying outside of your culture, outside of your religion, and sometimes outside of your race, that can lead to a lot of friction that I don't think a lot of people really foresee. Like I think a lot of people have this idea of like, well, I'm gonna date interracially, and it's all gonna be all nice and stuff like that. And I'll just tell you from experience, like I've dated interracial, I've dated Asian girl, I dated a Persian girl, so I for me at least, the cultural there was some cultural blockage there. It's like, well, what are you gonna have for breakfast? She wants rice because she's Asian, and like I want bacon and eggs, toast, because I'm white. Like that's what I eat, right? That's what I need in a coffee, right? So it's I gotta find an Asian girl some rice in the morning, and then I gotta find myself some real American food. For me at least, I found that that for me interracial dating wasn't like very, it wasn't really like the thing I thought it was going to be. Yeah, Pistol Pete is a Christian nationalist. I don't know Pistol Pete. I don't know who that is. But yeah, but there you go. The Pope is not a liberal. The Pope is not a leftist. Don't believe that stuff. JD Vance is a plant. In fact, I'll like your super chat if I can. It won't let me. Anyways, rice and fried eggs with kimchi, Korean girl breakfast. Rice and fried eggs with kimchi. Yeah. I don't know about kimchi in the morning, bro. I'm good. Like, yeah. I don't know about kimchi in the morning, bro. That seems like that'd make, that'd not be a good time. All right, we're going to be moving on in a moment. Nice new look. JD is nobody. I forgot him. He has no character, no fire. And Rubio is a loser. Is just too focused on Cuba. Lindsey Graham is a crazy old psycho. Yeah, Lindsey Graham at Disney World. I mean, let him have his Disney World, dude. He's got no family, like nobody. Whoa, what a creature. Like absolutely, like what a weird creature to see him like eating ice cream at Disney World like that. But that's who's in charge. That's who has sway. And guess what? The posters, they don't have sway. The people that are on Twitter thinking that they can get the administration to do what they want, they have no sway whatsoever. Right? So cheesy eggs and bacon in the morning with a Colombian brew. Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't really put cheese on my eggs. Put spices on my eggs, but I mean, I put cheese on my eggs if I'm having a breakfast sandwich, of course, like cheddar or American like sliced processed cheese, or cheddar or processed cheese. That's really where it's at, to be honest. I used to put like mozzarella on my breakfast sandwich, but Monterey Jack's pretty good. Yeah, if you get the Monterey Jack with like the little pieces of like peppers in them, that's really good. You get it from the grocery store. Yeah, no, I like breakfast quite a bit. What kind of spices do you fuck with on the eggs? Salt, pepper, and onion powder, a little bit of onion powder, and a little bit of cayenne or chili powder. Give it a little bit of color, a little bit of spice, a little bit of kick. Onion powder, salt and pepper. That's like your main, you get the salt, you get your little bit of pepper, and you get a little bit of that savory onion flavor. That's if you want your breakfast sandwich or your eggs to taste like they do at like whatever you got, whatever your breakfast chain is. I think it's a combo of like onion powder and like garlic powder or something like that. But generally, that's how you get like some pretty good eggs in the morning. It's just a little bit of salt, pepper, onion powder, cayenne. It's pretty basic. Don't overdo it though. Like, do I agree with everything Nick says? I mean, probably not. When it comes to the stuff that matters, I agree with probably like 99.9% of what he says. When it comes to like, I don't know, like little things, like whether or not like he likes Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that doesn't really matter. He's like, he never parties, or, he's never been to like he doesn't really like party, or like he's never really like done drugs or gotten drunk or whatever, which I don't like think you should go out and do or whatever. But how about his stuff with culture? What do you mean with stuff with culture? Like women? or dating or stuff like that. Like, can't ever finish his videos, just too wimpy. Culture, as he says. Yeah, the culture with a K, like the Migos or whatever. No, I don't know. There's not really like that much, to be honest, that I disagree with him on. You know, like I said, like he's really prudish when it comes to like, you know, I guess like sex and that kind of stuff. Like I said, he's not a partier, you know, and like I came from like a blue collar background, worked in TV, you know, so partying, that kind of stuff, like that's pretty normal to me. You know, if you guys come from like a blue collar background, you probably understand, like go with friends. Yeah, you're going to get, you know, kind of wasted sometimes. It is what it is, right? So yeah, Nick is like a good boy. He doesn't really he doesn't have that kind of life experience. He doesn't really have experience with women like that. So, and I don't like bash him at all for it. I think he's like holding to like his faith, like very true. But, you know, I think like he says that people should save themselves from marriage and stuff like that. But I think for most guys, I don't think it's really realistic, you know. I think he's probably backed off of that a lot now, though. I don't think he's like nearly as big on that anymore. All right, we got our thing, probably our last topic for tonight. Politically, Nick is hard to beat. Top guy. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a reason he's the most popular guy in the world when it comes to politics. I like to focus mainly on this channel. We talk a lot about like geopolitics and stuff like that because it kind of matters more than the domestic side of things, you know, whether or not like Israel is controlling, Gog and Magog, you know, exactly. You're saying Gog and Magog are the US, Israel, and Great Britain. I don't know, man. I've heard lots of people throw who Gog is, what Magog is. Gog is the leader of the nation, of like some like evil nation of the he is an antichrist figure, and he is like supposed to be, I believe, like a head of state of some kind of nation. The nation is called Magog, so he is Gog, and then the nation is Magog. As I watched a religion for breakfast video on this recently, so you know, hopefully I get that correct. But here we are. All right, here we are at our final topic for tonight: the decrepit curse of JD Vance on Viktor Orban. Absolutely just killed Orban's campaign. He got destroyed by Peter Magyar.
Thank you. Please. So before I started my remarks, I actually had a special guest that asked that I give him a phone call, and we'll see. Let's hope he actually answers. But this is going to be very embarrassing. All right.
No, don't tell me he's going to get like left on voicemail, dude.
I'm sorry, the person you were trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet.
Okay. Try one more time. Hello, Mr. President. How are you?
He's using like the little iPhone too. Like, bro, he's got that little iPhone for like the small hands. You go, bro, best believe you get the big iPhone, bro. Like, are you kidding me? I got big hands, bro. I can't have a tiny phone. JD Vance got small hands out here.
Hey, JD, could you give me a second? I'm just... Wow, that's some...
Oh, the kiss of death, dude. Ooh, like that this is a dour crowd. And let's be, if you know anything about Hungarian politics, you know Orban is like super old head, dude. Young people do not like Orban whatsoever. This is a crusty boomer crowd, which they had in America First movement back when I was Nick's age. But best we got was Ron Paul, then all that fizzled out pretty quick. Yeah, and Ron Paul, you know, to give him his credit, he did pill a lot of people on like a lot of things, but you know, he never really went that far to pill people in the JQ. I thought Victor would win with the U.S. support behind him. Well, there goes the Ukraine aid. I don't know, like, why you care about the Ukraine aid. Like, if you're not up to date on like what's going on with the $90 billion, the $90 billion is coming from the EU. America is not paying anymore. America hasn't given Ukraine any aid. in a long time, right? Pretty much since Trump took office, since he had that spat with Zelensky in the Oval Office, America hasn't been footing the bill for Ukraine. It's been Europe. Now, it is Europe's war, right? So America getting involved in the first place, that was kind of optional. America didn't have to do that. This is Europe's war after all, and it matters the most for Europe, right? You have to ask yourself, though, if Orban is Putin's guy in Europe, right, which he is, that is undeniable. He ran on a campaign of closer ties to Moscow and was an anti-Brussels candidate. And we'll talk about his opponent who won, Peter Magyar, in a little bit. So why, when America's not footing the bill, this is not America's $90 billion. I believe it's actually 90 billion euros. Actually, it's not dollars. So it's actually a slightly more amount of money than that. So it's probably closer to like 95 billion dollars. So this 90 billion euros is being held up because of a veto power. It requires all of the nations of the European Union to vote together, right? It has to be a unanimous decision. So Hungary, led by Viktor Orban, right, who has been in power for 16 years straight, and before that he had a little gap of power. He was in power for like a decade before that. So he's basically been in power since the fall of the Berlin Wall, since communism fell. He's been basically in charge most of the time in Hungary. He's sort of like how Netanyahu's been in charge of Israel for like 30 years on and off, right? So Orban, who came to prominence in the late 80s, early 90s as basically a revolutionary, a pro-West, a pro-NATO, pro-Europe, a pro-Western Europe, pro-America vision for Hungary. It was an anti-Moscow, it was a capitalist vision, and he was an outspoken critic, right? So now you have him fast forward decades later, and he is saying, oh, well, we are against the influence of Brussels, of the EU. Well, the rest of Europe is almost completely unanimous. In fact, Hungary is the only vote that is holding up, or was holding up, this 90 billion euros to Ukraine. Now, I will say this about that money, right? America only stands to benefit from that 90 billion euros. Okay. Why? Because the Europeans do not have the manufacturing capacity to make that amount of munitions and weapons and equipment. They lack the resources because the resources come mainly from Africa, which Russia has been doing coups in Africa, using mercenaries to overthrow European-backed governments, right? French-backed and Portuguese-backed, Dutch-backed governments, okay? These are where the natural resources for Europe's manufacturing base actually come from, right? And, you could say it's a legitimate security pact that the European nations have with these African nations, right? These African nations are under siege by Islamists, right? By Russian-backed Wagner mercenaries, right? Wagner's gone, so it's different mercenary groups now. And then you also have the soft power of China, right, coming into the place. So it's not like an open communist revolutionary. Maybe it will develop into that in the future, but China is looking to essentially turn your country, your African state, into a vassal state. All right. So if you're an African country, you need security, right? And if you're former, your former colonial European subjugators, your colonizers, whatever you want to say, they're saying, well, we'll foot the bill for security. We will fight Al-Shabaab, ISIS in the Sahel, in sub-Saharan Africa. We will help you back up, help push back Rwanda, these kind of regional revisionist powers, right? Well, Europe still can't manufacture all of that, right? Even if Europe took back Africa, right, and did the rush for Africa all over again, Europe still wouldn't have the factories, and they also wouldn't have the energy due to the war in Iran, because Europe, of course, their factories need to run on natural gas for the most part, and a lot of, the energy just comes straight from the Gulf. So the factories, their manufacturing base for war is just not there. So this 90 billion euros, over half of it is going immediately directly to be spent on US weapons and munitions. The majority of that money that is being held up or was being held up by Orban, that is literally going to US defense contractors. That's what, close to $50 billion to just benefit the jobs in America by building weapons to help defend Ukraine. America's not footing the bill for Ukraine anymore, right? So you have to ask yourself, why is JD Vance campaigning on behalf of the pro-Putin candidate, right, who is blocking a deal to which all of the rest of Europe is unanimous on this? The rest of Europe wants to help Ukraine, right? The Hungarian people overwhelmingly voted, all right, well, you made this whole election about Zelensky, you made it all about Ukraine. Well, the Hungarian people voted in a complete landslide. It's like something crazy, like 70% of people voted for Magyar. We'll get to him too.
Mr. President, you are on with about 5,000 Hungarian patriots, and I think they love you even more than they love Viktor Orban.
Well, I can't believe that. I can't believe that, because I love Hungary and I love that Victor. I'll tell you, he's a fantastic man. We've had a tremendous relationship.
And so there is this kind of anti-Brussels, anti-EU mindset within the Trump administration, being very adversarial with Europe, right, our traditional ally, which is a huge mistake because Europe is able to be self-sufficient on its own. Europeans see Russia rightfully as a threat. So you have to ask yourself, why is JD Vance campaigning for the pro-Putin candidate? Why is he out here campaigning to shut down European money that's being spent on American weapons, right, that American companies are going to benefit off of, right? That's going to create American jobs in the defense sector. Why, right? Why are they doing this, right? And we're going to get to Magyar, actually. Orban was really good on immigration. What about Magyar? And so that's the thing, too, right? You may have noticed that there wasn't really calling Magyar a liberal or a leftist. They didn't really try that, right? Well, it's because he's not. A lot of people don't realize this about Peter Magyar, is that he's actually to the right of Orban. He has said some very Hungarian nationalist kind of things. Magyar is against mass migration. He is basically to the right of Orban on immigration. So that's a big wedge issue over there. And Magyar is to his right. Magyar is critical of Brussels. Magyar doesn't want. And so another thing I would like to say about the name, Peter Magyar, all right, is it just kind of hilarious. If you know anything about the Hungarians, that Magyar is their name of their kingdom from 1,000 years ago. It's pretty much the name of their ethnicity, their ancient ethnicity. That's their ancient kingdom is Magyar, and they're called the Magyars, right? And Peter is their most popular name there. It's Peter. So it's kind of funny. I saw some Hungarians saying they're him getting elected. That's if in America a guy named Johnny America got elected to be president. That's kind of the same level of name.
And he does a job. Remember this. He didn't allow people to storm your country and invade your country like other people have and ruin their countries, frankly.
It's okay, well, the Muslims are kind of here to stay in Europe. I'm not in Europe, but I won't say here, but the Muslims are in Europe, all right? They're there. Russia is clearly on a military conquest. They're sending tanks and cruise missiles and soldiers. It's okay. I get it. It's in Europe, it is a civilizational, it's an existential thing, right? well, what about the actual land invasion that's happening in Europe? It's like completely silent on that. I guess it's because they like strongman dictators. They like the image of someone who commands respect from their strength and their authority say so. Yeah, I mean, in that part of the world, they tend to just like dictators. It is the way it is. That dude's family must go way back. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you got like Magyar in your name, dude, that's like incredibly Tradden based. Like, that's like, I mean, I'm trying to think of like, yeah, but it's like if your name was like Johnny America, that's pretty much like the equivalent.
He's kept your country good. He's kept Hungarian people in your country. And he's done a fantastic job. And let me tell you, I like him a lot, but if I didn't think he did a good job, I wouldn't be making a call like this. But boy, that sounds like a big crowd, and that sounds like my kind of people.
So there is this thing where the real crux of the discussion ends up being, do you want to be part of the Russian influence of sphere of influence, the, you know, under Moscow, or would you like to be under the sphere of influence of Washington, D.C., or would you like to be under the sphere of influence of Brussels, right? These are kind of your choices for these smaller nations that don't have nuclear weapons, and you kind of have to choose. Well, the Western deal is just so much better. You will end up so much richer. The countries that are part of the post-Soviet Confederation, whatever the Russian Federation even is, right? You know, you can have this criticism of America and say America's decadent or whatever. America at least has an ideology. At least America has this idea of the city on a shining hill. What even is the Russian Federation? Like, you have to understand, a lot of the same people that were in government in the Soviet Union, in that bureaucracy, they literally just kept working as the government switched over from the USSR into the Russian Federation. Tons of the same bureaucrats, a lot of the same politicians, the military, a lot of that stayed intact. So you really just you got rid of the ideology, right? And, well, you know, you can obviously, I'm not a communist, I'm not a socialist. I would say those people are like my ideological enemies, adversaries, right? You do see this notion in the Slavic world, in the post-Soviet world, that, you know, those were the good times. The good times are behind us. You know, under communism, we were going to the stars. We were literally ahead of America in space exploration. Our planned economies were doing better in a lot of ways. Our militaries were bigger. You know, this was considered, and just the standard of living for your average Soviet citizen was so much higher. The level of social cohesion and pride that your average person felt in the nation, it wasn't even like on an ideological level of like, oh, we're communist and they're capitalist. It's just like, hey, we built a great nation. You know, we're powerful. You know, we've worked together to build this, right? And they've lost that, right? And they've hollowed out everything there. And so now you have this unholy alliance, this very weird kind of alliance going on where you have Donald Trump, you have Vladimir Putin and his ilk, and you have Orban, right? And what it is they're trying to be this right wing, we're nationalists, we're ostensibly Christian, although that can change seemingly on a dime, as we've seen with the president and you know, his heresies, blasphemies. So you have to look at this and go, well, why? Like, everyone in this triangle, Trump, Vance, Vladimir Putin, Orban, they're all trying to essentially take down Brussels, right? Like, Brussels is the enemy, the EU, and really it's Macron, right? Let's be real. Like, France is the nuclear deterrent. Germany is also the real target. So there's this kind of very insidious alliance that, you know, and it failed. Like, let's be absolutely real. Putin's ploy, Trump's ploy, which is really the same thing, right? To cut off the European aid to Ukraine, it ultimately failed. So it goes to show that while the BRICS people, while the people that, the Dugonists and the multipolarity types, the revisionist, types, they lack a fundamental understanding of the situation on the ground, and that is that Europe is powerful. Europe actually, when it gets its shit together, is actually a global superpower. Europe can throw its weight around actually a little bit. France has been re-upping essentially on its nuclear stockpile. So Emmanuel Macron announced about a month ago that France was no longer going to tell anyone else, like any independent institutions, any nuclear agencies, and they're not going to tell any countries of the UN what kind of nuclear weapons they have, what they're on, what they're capable of, how many of them, how powerful they have. France is going completely dark on informing anyone on their nuclear deterrence. France at the same time has essentially postured towards the rest of Europe that, hey, if we're going to be the nuclear deterrent for all of Europe, well, we're essentially going to have the dominant say in what happens in the EU. And if NATO falls apart, then France is ultimately the only real nuclear country, right? France and Germany. And the thing is, Germany could go nuclear very quickly. Germany is probably the number one next to Japan in what they call threshold states. So threshold states are states that could make nuclear weapons very quickly, within a few days to a week, and put them on a missile if they really wanted to, but they don't because political reasons. Is Germany and France holding up? Let's during the West change of wind during the political tone. Is Germany and France holding up? Yeah, like they're holding. Yeah, Germany and France are. You're buffering, or I'm buffering. Are we good? All right. Yeah, we're good. All right. Anyways, yeah, Germany and France are tight right now. They fought a cataclysm. You have to understand the geography of yes, Britain has nukes, but Britain is not part of the EU, right? They left. They're on their own, right? They're an island. So France geographically, France is surrounded on pretty much all sides by water or by mountains. So to their west, they have, of course, the coastline. To the south, and to the Alps, they have mountains all over that. The only way to really invade France is through Germany. I think this is like history 101. If you guys took a high school history class, you know this. You want to invade France, you go through Germany, right? So France has basically said to Germany, like, look, we're not going to fight another world war with you guys, but we're going to protect you guys with nukes because that's the only way that somebody could invade France, like realistically, right? And Germany says, yeah, we don't really want to be the dickheads that go ahead and stockpile nuclear weapons and point them at everybody, So there is like a real strategy here by the French, essentially to resurrect the French Empire, right? This is like a project. You can say, oh, like, I don't know if that's really going to happen. I mean, that's what they're vying towards. France wants to essentially, wield their influence in Europe as they traditionally have. Some talk that Britain not sure even their nukes even work anymore due to the lack of maintenance. Yes, that is a real thing. I've saw those reports that you're talking about. Maintenance on nuclear weapons that's a real thing. If you don't maintain them, they're going to fall apart and not work and become unreliable. And Britain is decrepit, right? Like Britain has been falling apart. Their military has been falling apart. So their nukes falling apart, that's not super surprising. So yeah, Orban being defeated all around. I think this is also kind of funny too. Talking with liberals, they're kind of surprised that I'm so anti-Orban, They think that, Trump and Vance, they're so right-wing and, they support Orban. That means you must support him too. It's like, no, I'm to the right of Orban. Let's be real. This guy wants to let the hordes of like Slavs and Turks and Laplanders just like come flying into Europe. That's what like the Russian army is like made up of. Like, let's be real. It's not white. They're not white people. All right. I think Great Britain will hold up on its own. I don't think that they're so much weak and they aren't really united in politics and even firepower wise, but they'll be all right though. I mean, they'll be fine, but you'd want to be just fine compared to like Britain used to like rule the world, bro. Like Britain used to be on top of everything. Yeah, and I don't really see Britain rising again. It's over. The empire's over. They're just trying to hold on, really is what it is. That's what's sad to me about the UK. UK's been reduced to this really sad mess. And yeah, they'll probably hold on, right? They got nukes, they got their island. Much respect, of course, to, British forces and all that, the British military. But it's not, the situation's not looking good, military wise. The Navy's looking pretty poor. Yeah, like you pointed out, the nuclear stockpiles not being maintained. So who knows, maybe Britain in a desperate situation when they realize there's very small stockpile of Cold War era nuclear weapons don't work anymore and America's unreliable. Maybe in a total humiliation that people hundreds of years ago would have never predicted, Britain comes to France to ask for a nuclear deterrent against anyone that wants to invade, right? So that's pretty down bad, right? Oh, we got another JD Vance clip right here. JD Vance, I'm not telling you exactly who to vote for, right, JD Vance? We've got to get Viktor Orban reelected as Prime Minister of Hungary, don't we?
Well, I'm not telling you exactly who to vote for. We have got to get Viktor Orban reelected as Prime Minister of Hungary, don't we?
Like, oh my god, dude. How much of a stupid NPC in that crowd do you have to be? I know some Hungarian people and I've seen online that have said that, like, oh man, like it's boomer slop. Like the people that fell for Orban, you're like falling for AI clips, like that kind of stuff. We just get a picture of this guy. Now we didn't even get a view of this guy, but just look at this guy, man. This greasy guy. I mean, just the phenotype, but you don't take care of yourself at all. You look like this, This is what he looked like when he was younger. I mean, he definitely looked better when he was younger, but I'm not going to say he mogged at all. In fact, there's like quite a bit of infraorbital, like a lack of bone structure right there. There's recessed infraorbitals. Yeah, you can really see it right here. Yeah, it's not good. This guy, it was cursed from the start. If you have like too much like recessed infraorbitals right here, but you can always fix it. That's actually a really easy Looksmax. Just get a fat graft. A lot of people, because they have a lot of fat tissue in their neck and then like their cheeks and stuff, they'll like basically, I mean, it's basically a BBL for your face, right? But you're basically grafting fat from like your neck or if you have like a double chin, like you have a fat chin or whatever, they'll basically take fat from there and they'll like put it into your eyes. This is called your infraorbital region. And this is just like, if you have this look on your face, right, you have like very, like, it looks like you have dark circles and under your eyes, and it looks like you don't sleep a lot, but it's actually just because of the amount of fat around your eyes and just the way that like the bone density is, the bone structure there is, and just makes it look like less optimal. Whereas if you see a person that has like really full infraorbitals, like a lot of fat tissue in their eye cells, like it looks like a lot healthier. It looks like a lot nicer. It looks like you basically look like really well rested, essentially. I probably have like I think I have kind of dark circles, like recessed infraorbitals. Probably get done. Is that risky? It can be done without side effects. Asking for a friend. Yeah, they're just fat dissolvers. So it's just a product called Aqualux. Clav has talked about this a lot. There's probably like an Aqualux clinic near you. It's pretty common. But fat graft is a different thing, right? So Aqualux is just fat dissolvers to like get rid of like all the fat in your face, if that's what you want done. So if you have like fine infraorbitals, like it doesn't look like you have baggy eyes or anything, and you just like have like saggy like chin, or fat like face or fat neck or whatever, then you get fat dissolvers, right? And those are actually like just really like basic safe injections. It makes you feel like you got punched in the face for like a week or so, maybe less, but like it bruises and stuff. But basically, it'll make you look like a total Chad, like permanently. But the fat graft is also kind of similar too. It's not super risky at all. Like a fat graft is like a pretty standard procedure, especially like one for the eyes here. I know we're like looking at Viktor Orban talking about looksmaxing, but like this is actually important content right here. Okay. He could really use like a fat graft under his eyes, because he just has, especially as a young man, right? You see that how the eyes. So if you have that's the thing too, is like a lot of guys might not even like know that they have hunter eyes. Like if you ever heard of like hunter eyes versus prey eyes, but you might just not have enough fat in your eyelids. And then once you actually get a fat graft here, you have like totally Chad, like hunter eyes. Like, but as you can see, oh yeah, I mean, here's a good, this is actually a good juxtaposition right here. I think we can zoom in actually. So not so low quality, but as you see here, it's George W. Bush with Viktor Orban. And you can kind of see here that George W. Bush, well, I'm not a fan of George W. Bush, let's be real, all right? This is an objective looks critique right here, is that you can see here he doesn't have like such like big circles, like dark circles under his eyes at all. And that's because he has enough fat cells in his eyes, right? And it's also in the like upper portion too, at the top of my cursor, that like that filling out on the upper portion of your infraorbitals gives you basically like a very, that's like the sexiest look, right? That's actually what gives you like the hunter eyes kind of shape. And you can actually see this right here. He has like very like kind of narrow slits, right? These are like eyes that are like very like optimized for, hunting, you could say. That's why they're called hunter eyes, right? Over here, you could see the chud, lack of fat cells. His ancestors probably didn't get much sunlight in Transylvania. They're probably vampires too. There's like kind of a darkened vampiric look to, recessed infraorbitals. But as you can see, it's like a major difference here. George W. Bush is, I would say he's definitely mogging Viktor Orban. Orban looks like a total chud. Also, he has like the double chin going on. So Orban is like a perfect example of like this double chin right here. You could take a bunch of that fat, and his cheeks are actually fine, right? I would take like the fat from his chin, because he had a pretty bad double chin right here, and put that right in the eyes, right? Thank you for the $20, PFF 1974, big super chat. Thanks for the stream, appreciate it. But what are we talking about? We're looksmaxing, we're critiquing. We are talking about infraorbitals. We're talking about eye structure. How his ancestors didn't get much sunlight, brutal. Absolutely, yeah. It is it is genetic, but you can fix it. Like I said. George Bush has got a little bit of the double chin going on, but it's not too bad. It's like, this is like some chud face right here, eh? Like this is some major Redditor face. Yeah. So real mama's boy. I mean, Hungarian mama's boy. Just look at him, right? But he's got other features going on. I wouldn't say that he's completely like cooked or chopped. I would say his jawline's fine, but he's got this kind of pronounced like kind of jowls, like he kind of like sticks, like you see how he's got a kind of a snout like Orban does, like his kind of his mouth region kind of sticks out, whereas George Bush's kind of goes in, right? So he's kind of got like inward kind of curve. Orban's kind of has a protruding kind of curvature to his mouth, which just isn't very attractive looking. It's not very meta. It is Like, so I mean, we have these various things going on here, but overall, oh yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have eyebrows either, too. Yeah, this is actually a brutal, like, looks critique right now. I'm just realizing it. He actually doesn't have, like real eyebrows. I mean, he's got, like, these big ones, but, yeah, see, that's the thing, is George Bush, well, I don't like him. I would say, though, George Bush, to be frank, he has this big nose, and he's got big ears. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? Like, doesn't he have massive nose and ears compared to his face? Like, it makes him look kind of gnomish in a way. But anyways, yeah, so that's, like, the Orban looks critique. I think physiognomy doesn't lie. Some other people we can compare to right here. Oh my god, he's brooding, dude. What is going on here? We got some classic European phenotypes lined up right here. I mean, just look at this guy over here. I mean, he is. What is he? What is he on, dude? How do you stance up like this? How do you look at people like this? Yeah, so you got some classic European phenotypes, not very strong What is with, like, European leaders? Like, don't get me wrong, I like the EU and stuff, but, like, what is with, like, the physiognomy? Like, what is with, like, how these guys look? Yeah, they look so depressed, don't they? I mean, you've got Europeans in the chat. Are all your leaders like this? Are they all just, like, very sad or, like, maniacal looking? I mean, this guy on the left, I think he's Czech, right? He's very tall. So, I mean, he looks probably the most normal. What do we got here? That's like the German chancellor, I think. I think the guy's Slovakia. Oh, no. No. What am I saying? That's French. The flags are right there. I'm an idiot. The flags are literally right there. I wasn't paying attention. That's Polish guy, Angela Merkel. Okay. Angela Merkel. I don't know what the female physiognomy going on right there. She could probably use a Looksmax. What are we saying in the chat here? Yeah, Pepperjack. Yeah, I mean, listen, the physiognomy doesn't lie with this guy. Let's be real. From the start, he wasn't really particularly blessed. Let's pull up his opponent. Peter or Petter? I've hearing people say Petter. So, I mean, come on. How are you... Like, if we were just deciding this election before it happens, right, based off pure lookism, knowing that people are vain, right? Vanderlyn. I forget her first name. That's definitely it's definitely not who I'm talking about. No, you're talking about, like, the woman who's in charge of the EU, right? They're pulling up, like, a Red Dead character. Yeah, you're talking about the woman that's in charge, what is she? Ursula von der Leyen, yes. So, of course, right? I mean, physiognomy doesn't lie here. This is exactly what I'm talking about with the eyes, right? So this is a perfect example. We don't have a picture. Yeah, so we have Orban right here, and then we have Petter Magyar. I think it's pretty clear the difference, guys. I mean, why people are winning, you know, why this guy won over Orban. So we just went over all the eye stuff. What do you see here? Well, he doesn't have dark circles, right? He has full fat cells. He has basically completely full infraorbitals. He's got a Chad jawline. He doesn't have excess neck fat. His mouth region is actually perfect, so he's probably got good dentist work done. And that's the thing too. If you have good dentistry, you can fix a lot of that mouth region where it can, like, look a lot, like, uneven. Like, I have crowded teeth, which I need to get, like, fixed because, you know, I bite my tongue in my sleep and it hurts. I hate that. But it affects the shape of your face significantly. Yeah, he does look. Yeah, exactly. He looks like he takes care of himself, right? Orban, not so much, right? It looks like he's been hitting those, you know, double cheeseburgers, with melted mushrooms. So obviously Magyar, he's got some hair going on too, right? Orban's hair. I mean, just look at this. Look at this tuft. And let's be real, guys. Let's be real. You're styling your hair this like equal part down the way. I'm sorry, but yeah, I don't like that. That equal part down the way. It just looks weak, right? Doesn't it look weak? I mean, this guy has a hairstyle, right? He's like swept back. Like women see this and they're like, oh, I like that. Let's move on to Ursula. But was drinking the blood of innocence really worth it? I'm joking, kind of. I don't think Peter Magyar's like that. Orban stole Vance's jelly donuts. Totally, dude. No, Vance got the jelly donuts from Orban, dude. JD, back to the couch, JD. Back to the couch, JD. Back. All right? Back where you belong. Like smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, smoke a little crack every now and then. Well, speaking of smoke cigarettes, I mean, listen, the European female, is kind of made to like consume chocolate and smoke cigarettes, right? So I think we got some strong phenotype going on over here. She's of course like older. We can get like a picture of when she was younger. Oh, that's her great grandmother, eh? Interesting. So of course, all right. 2005. Yeah, I'd say she mogs. I would say like her I mean, what can I critique? I mean, she's kind of pretty, right? I would say that her eyebrows could be a little bit stronger, more defined. I'd say maybe like her there's not too much to critique here, actually. She's actually pretty good looking. She actually has good physiognomy. She takes care of herself. I mean, for an older European woman, right? She has good teeth. She has a good smile, right? She has wear and tear on her skin, right? She has crow's feet, but that's just, you can't help that. She's literally older, right? Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. Teeth, I mean, some people will be like, oh, you have to have perfect teeth. I don't really think so. I don't think people necessarily have to have perfect teeth to be attractive. I was joking, but you know how many of these people roll. Yeah, absolutely. Vaughn is German aristocracy. Absolutely, bro. I mean, von Bismarck, right? Shout out to Bismarck. I mean, there's a bit of vibe in this, Listen, she's a bit of an ice queen, right? I'm not gonna lie, she mogs, right? There's a certain kind of like, I do like an ice queen. I'm not gonna lie. Like, you're in charge of the European Union. She's like a real pantsuit kind of lady. So no, I do think Ursula mogs. I don't know anything about like what she does, to be honest. Didn't she like just take over pretty recently? Yeah, I mean, she for an older woman, she mogs. She does, and that's important for her job, right? But you can see why these people don't like Orban. If you're like an attractive person, ugly people are repulsive, Yeah, she's all in the Pfizer gate. Yeah, here we go. This is the good part of the Wikipedia page where we talk about Pfizer, right? Exactly, Pfizer gate. Yep. So she's all involved in that. Hey, if you don't like vaccines, then you probably won't like her. Here we go. Here's a bit of a vibe, right? I mean, we're in Bucha. That's where that massacre happened, in Ukraine. Yeah, that's where the Russians killed a whole bunch of innocent people. Tragic. Super messed up. But yeah, she mogs. Peter Magyar mogs. JD Vance. Viktor Orban. Total fat chuds. Just disgusting fat losers. Like, dude, like, lose some weight. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what is with MAGA and fat people, dude. Like, I don't get it. Like, miss me with that. Like, I don't know. Being fat, I literally could never picture myself fat. Like, I don't know how you like let it get to that point. But it's just like, what is wrong? There's something, I think there's an underlying mental illness if you can't control yourself, like eating wise. Like, what is going on there? Jeez. But yeah, that's Orban. That is Vance. Yeah. So that's all I had really for tonight. Yeah. So thank you guys all for tuning in. JD Vance is an L. Absolutely. Yeah. No JD Vance, guys. I don't know how many times you have to say it. This guy is not us. All right. Do not let anyone claim that this guy represents you. This guy, he's a total fraud. Plant, as somebody pointed out, as our first super chatter pointed out. Total plant. Yeah, getting yourself back together. Absolutely, man. No, it's never too late, man. Unless you're on. Sometimes it is. You guys watch My 600-Pound Life. You know that sometimes it is too late. You know, it does get too far. That sometimes
The soul can still be saved.
Yeah, maybe if you convert to Catholicism, you could be saved. You're like on My 600-Pound Life. No, I didn't let myself get away, but 5 years ago, I did let myself get away, but that was 5 years ago, so be easy on me. Yeah, get yourself back together, bro. No, I mean, start running. Honestly, I gotta get back into running. It's a real easy way to lose weight. Not at all. He sucks. He does. JD Vance sucks. All right, we'll leave it on that for tonight. JD Vance sucks. All right, he is a loser. All right, he's calling you over to play Mountain Dew and Halo. I'm sorry, dude. I have to make a living. All right, we actually have to do stuff. JD, no more Mountain Dew and Halo. For us, we have a nation to actually like build, an empire, an imperium to actually upkeep. All right, you can go, JD Vance. You can go sit on the couch with your Mountain Dew and your Halo. All right, you go do that. All right, the fat slob that he is. All right. Fat people just disgust me, man. I saw, and the last thing I'll leave off, you know, you guys might have seen if you're on Twitter or whatever, that there was these groypers, these self-identifying as groypers, and they're doing an interview with CNN, and they're fat, dude. Like, like they have the America First hat on. They got Nick's merch is all over like their room. They're wearing everything. They have, the foreign influence flag, all that, right? They got the whole Fuentes.store, merch for the CNN interview on Groypers, right? And they're just fat. They're chuds. Like, we didn't even get to see any clips from it yet, and I'm sure they're going to be super, super chuddy. But Nick was going off on these guys, and it's like, listen, guys, if you're going to represent the movement out there, it's like the Looksmax is true. Like, you do have to Looksmax. Lean is law. If you're going to wear the America First hat out there, if you're going to wear the quarter zip, try to shave off a few pounds here and there. We have to put our best forward. We have to have our true Aryan Ubermenches. All right. Our Ubermensch must be forward. All right. So yes. Wanted to make Nick look bad. Were they real Nick Fuentes supporters? Yeah, I'm sure they're real supporters. Listen, I'm sure they are, but I don't know where CNN found these guys. There's some basement chuds probably on 4chan or whatever. And I'm not dissing 4chan or whatever, but let's be real. Physiognomy doesn't lie. All right. I could see your cheeks. You could see, when your ankles or your cankles or whatever, when they're starting to bulge at, when your legs start to bulge, at your heels and your stuff like that. It's your shoes start to bulge or your pants start to bulge from how big your legs are. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like fat people. All right. But All right, but don't do anything bad to fat people. I don't want to hurt fat people. If YouTube is listening, I'm gonna call it for tonight, guys. Kind of. I think that's it. I think we've covered everything. We'll probably be back tomorrow. Probably be back tomorrow, and then the next day, Nick's gonna be back on Monday night. So we'll probably see videos Monday or Tuesday morning, most likely. Yeah, so that's about it. Probably do some you got tall person legs? That's good. Yeah, we got that going on. Yeah, you got tall person legs? Good. Good. Yeah, don't get fat legs. It's ugly. But yeah. That's me for tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate all the support. Everyone sends their super chats. Thank you. Keeping the channel alive and healthy. Definitely going to be streaming more because you guys are awesome. And watch it later for tonight. If you missed part of the stream, you want to rewatch, the VODs will be going up later tonight. So thank you, PFF1974. Thank you, Word to Your Llama 817. Our super chatters for tonight. By the way, has Iron Descent gotten a channel back? I don't believe so. You can find his channel. I'll type it in the chat. Actually, it's there's his handle on Instagram. If you guys want to find Iron Descent, listen to me every morning. Thank you, Angela Halo 1307. I appreciate it. Well, there you go. If you guys want to find Iron Descent, he's at Gub on Instagram. Go follow him. Tell him Blasphemer sent you. Say what up. All right, guys. I'm out for tonight. Thank you once again for everyone's help and support. Yes. Peace.